Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, everyone. We are from Group 9, and in this video, we will present our three syntax analysis, which are V2T movement, WH questions, and pied-piping. Let's get started. Here I am Cindy, and I will present our first material, which is V2T movement. So V2T movement is the movement of a finite main verb from the head V position of VP into the head T position of TP. V2T movement was productive in Elizabethan English, and in Elizabethan English, clauses containing a finite auxiliary are typically negated by positioning not between the auxiliary and the verb. So the first point here is negative with auxiliary. Here we suppose that not in Elizabethan English is an adverb that functions as the specifier of the verbal expression that following it. And we have the sentence, they will not miss us as our example. So in this sentence, not is the specifier of meet us and hence modifies meet us. And the null is a null complementizer that marking the declarative force of the sentence and assigning nominative case to the subject they. The next point is negative with main verb. So an interesting aspect of negative sentences in Elizabethan English is that the main verb is positioned in front of not. Here we have our example, I cry not for him. So if not in Elizabethan English is a VP specifier, which is positioned at the leftmost edge of the verb phrase, then how can we account the fact that the verb which should be expected to follow the negative particle not ends up positioned in front of not in the sentence like the one? So the answer is that when a finite T in Elizabethan English contains no auxiliary, the verb moves out of the head V position of VP into the head T position of TP in order to fill the T. So thus, the verb cry is first merged in the head V position of within VP and then moves into the head T position in TP, and thereby ending up position in front of not, with the original occurrence of cry in V being given a null spell out. So the next point is strong T. Then why the verb cry should move from V to T? Here we can suppose that a finite T is strong in Elizabethan English. So in a sentence in which the T position is not filled by an auxiliary, the verb moves from V to T in order to fill the strong T positions. And a strong affix is one that can find a host either by merger or by attracting some item below it to adjoin the affix. Here in the structure as this picture, the strong third-person singular present tense affix in T is provided with a host by directly merging the auxiliary will with the tense affix in T and forming will plus AF. But as shown in picture below, the strong tense affix in T attracts the closest verb which it commends, the verb cry, to move to T and attach to the tense affix so that the affix is provided with a verbal host via movement. And the next is weak tense affix. So T in present day English contains a weak tense affix which cannot attract a verb to move from V to T, but rather can only be attached to a verbal host either by merger of an auxiliary directly with a null tense affix in T or by lowering of the tense affix onto the main verb. Here we have sentence, she eats the apples. So in such auxiliary-less finite clauses, the weak tense affix in T undergoes the morphological operation of epic-hopping in the PF component, lowering the affix onto the main verb in the manner shown by the arrow, like in the picture on the side. So both strong and weak tense affixes can be directly merged with an auxiliary in T, and the two differ in how the affix comes to be attached to a main verb. So the first, a strong tense affix like that found in Elizabethan English triggers the movement of the verb from V to T in structures like below. And second, a weak tense affix like that found in present-day English is lowered onto the main verb in the PF component by affix hopping in structures like this. So I think that's all for T to T movement materials. And the next materials is WH questions, which will be presented by Nia. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Now we are moving on to the next material in our group presentation, WH questions. Now let's take a look at the definition of WH question first. So WH questions are expressions starting with WH words such as what, who, where, when, why, whom, which, whose, and how. And the movement that involves the WH question is called WH movement. This movement is basically occurred when a WH question like who or what moves into the specifier position within CP. So in the right section of this slide, you can see two types of the WH question. The first type consists of three examples. What languages can you speak? Which one would you like? And who was she dating? And each of the sentences in example number 1 contains an auxiliary occupying the head C position of CP, and it functions as the complement of the verb at the end of the sentence. And then structures like example number 2, you can speak what languages, you would like which one, and she was dating who, are called WH in situ because the WH expression does not get preposed, but rather remain in situ or in place in the canonical position associated with its grammatical function. In English, WH in situ questions are used primarily as echo questions to echo and question something previously said by someone else. But what position do they get moved into in non-echo question, like example number 1? Let's move on to the next slide. So two different kinds of movement operation are involved in here in the example who was she texting. The first movement is the operation of head movement. Like the bold printed auxiliary was moves from the head T position of TP to the head C position of CP. And the second movement involves movement of an italicized WH expression from a position below C, here as you can see in the tree diagram, from the complement position within VP into the specifier position in CP. And this is what we call a WH movement. So WH movements moves maximal projections. In this example, who was she texting? It moves the interrogative Q pronoun who, which is a maximal projection by virtue of being the largest expression headed by the word who. So that's all from me. And the next presentation or material will be presented by Ila. Thank you.
Thank you for the time, Nia. So the last topic is about pied-piping. In transformational grammar, pied-piping is a syntactic process in which one element in a clause tracks another word, such as a preposition with it. So, what is pied-piping? Pied-piping is the constructions which prepositions is moved to the front of its clause just before its object. I choose an example to whom you are speaking. The prepositions to merge with the pronouns whom to form the TP to whom. This PP in turn is merged with the verb speaking to form the VP speaking to whom. This VP is then merged with the past tense auxiliary word, forming the T bar we're speaking to whom, and this in turn is merged with the subject pronoun you to form the TP you are speaking to whom. Merging the resulting TP with a null interrogative complementizer carrying an H feature or EF will derive the structure below. So this is the tree diagram from the example that I choose. You are speaking to whom. We'll then expect that each feature of C to trigger movement of the smallest maximal projections containing an interrogative word to the specifier positions within CP. Since the pronoun whom is a maximal projections containing an interrogative word by virtue of being the largest expressions headed by the interrogative word whom. Economic considerations will lead us to expect that whom will be moved on its own. And yet, this is not the case. Instead, the whole PP to whom undergoes movement to the spec C at the front of the embedded clauses. And yeah, we are from group 9 would like to say thank you so much for your nice attention. Have a great day and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.